Can my marriage be saved? That's the question thousands of married couples have asked me. And as a marriage counselor, I'll tell you what I've told those thousands of couples when they've asked me, can my marriage be saved? No, I don't believe my marriage can be saved. God knows I've tried everything. To begin with, Mrs. T, you must understand that a wife's feeling neglected because a husband devotes all his time to his business is not an unusual situation in a marriage. What kind of work do you do, Mr. T?
I write sex manuals. And when I come home at night after writing sex manuals all day, I like to just shake hands. A good, clean handshake.
But I want to be kissed sometimes. Why can't you kiss me sometimes?
I get enough of that at the office. All day long when we're putting out a new sex manual, we keep having meetings about kissing, and sometimes even dirtier stuff than that.
But you say in the sex manuals you write there's nothing dirty about sex. You say that sex is healthy and beautiful.
Okay. So you married a liar.
Good afternoon, Mrs. M. Since this is to be another joint counseling session with you and your husband, shall we wait for him to arrive before we begin?
Oh, I'm afraid my husband won't be able to attend this session. I killed him right before I left the house.
Oh, I see. Well, since I've already set aside the hour for the two of you, shall we use the time to discuss how you could have saved your marriage if you hadn't killed your husband?
Oh, yes, we can always learn, can't we? Well, John, or rather the late John, John was never willing to sit down and talk things over with me. I mean, even this morning when I said, John, I'm going to shoot you right between the eyes, even then John didn't offer to sit down and discuss my shooting him right between the eyes as a very serious rift in our marriage.
What did John say when you told him that you were going to shoot him right between the eyes?
Well, he said, don't do it. Please, don't shoot me. Don't do it. I mean, it was just another example of John always wanting his own way.
Since you two couples couldn't afford individual marriage counseling, I felt it might be of help to your respective marriages if I counseled the four of you together to cut down your expenses. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, I'd like you to meet Mr. and Mrs. Jackson.
How do you do?
How do you do?
How do you do?
How do you do?
Fine, thank you.
Fine, thank you.
Fine, thank you.
Fine, thank you.
Now, Mrs. Johnson, what's wrong with your marriage?
I like to go out dancing, and my husband likes to sit home like a lump.
And Mrs. Jackson?
I like to sit home like a lump, and my husband likes to go out dancing.
Darling.
Darling!
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 Well, then, I'll send the bills to your old addresses, and then you can forward them to your new addresses. Now, Mrs. L., in my previous marriage counseling sessions with both you and your husband, you've complained that your husband never talks to you about his work. So that you will be able to identify with your husband's career, I thought it might be helpful to conduct this marriage counseling session right here on your husband's job. Now, feel free to ask your husband any questions about his job.
What are you doing, dear?
I'm performing a brain operation.
Oh. Well, I knew you went to the office in the morning, but I never really knew what you did there. Of course, I always knew you were a doctor because I can't read your handwriting.
Yes, sponge.
Oh, why does that cute little nurse keep looking at you?
That nurse keeps looking at me so she'll know when to hand me the scalpel.
I'll bet.
Suture. Quick, suture.
Oh, dear, your patient looks just like Sarah Williams, Dodie MacArthur's sister-in-law from Philadelphia. Oh, excuse me, but are you Sarah Williams, Dodie MacArthur's sister-in-law from Philadelphia?
No. I'm from Short Hills, New Jersey.
Well, do you know Bobby and Kiki Dillon from Short Hills?
I don't really know Kiki, but we both worked for Nixon.
Oh, I know you love Bobby and Kiki. You and your husband and Bobby and Kiki must come to dinner some night. I mean, if the operation's a success.
Plasma! Hurry with more plasma!
Well, darling, I'll be going home now because I can see you're starting to get fussy. I can't bear you when you're fussy.
Now, Mrs. S., why have you become dissatisfied with your marriage?
Well, before we were married, Mr. S. told me he wanted to have children. He promised me we'd have children, lots of children. He promised me.
And you want a divorce because after you were married, he didn't keep his promise about wanting children.
I want a divorce because he kept his promise, and he keeps keeping his promise. John, I say, stop keeping your promise.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here to unite this couple in matrimony. If anyone here can show just cause why this couple should not be joined together in marriage, let him speak now, or forever hold his peace.
Well, speaking as the bride, I object. Because, you see, I'm still in love with Robin Hargrove, who was a really swell kisser.
As the groom, I kind of object too, now that I think of it. Actually, I don't know how I got involved. I'll admit my bride to be as a nifty dancer, but that's hardly reason enough to destroy my whole future in life.
Excuse me, but I happen to be a freelance marriage counselor. Now, I'm sure that if the bride and groom make a genuine effort to understand each other's psychological tensions and emotional needs, we'll be able to work together and ram our way through the I-do's. Most couples come to marriage counselors too late, after the ceremony.
But I don't want to. Henry sweats when he dances.
And she says, you see, all the time. You see, you see, you see.
I now pronounce you man and wife.
Oh, it's too late. We're man and wife. But just don't ask me to dance with you at the reception.
Don't worry, I won't. You see, you see, you see.
As a marriage counselor, I'll first have to learn from either the husband or the wife of the couple just exactly what it is that's endangering your marriage.
Will you tell him, hon?
Well, I certainly have great hope of saving your marriage if you can still call your husband Hun.
I don't call him Hun because I like him. That's his name, Attila the Hun.
Now, what seems to be the trouble between you and your wife, Generalissimo?
Well, before we were married, my wife said she'd be happy with me no matter what I wanted to do in life, even if I found happiness in painting little delicate figures on the insides of rice bowls. But then, when we got married, all of a sudden, she wanted me to invade Red China.
And I take it you don't wish to invade Red China.
I want to invade Red China. There's not a man in the world who wants to invade Red China more than I do. But in the morning, before I've even had a chance to brush my teeth, she's after me with,
Well, are you going to invade Red China today? You said you were going to invade Red China, so why don't you? I should have married Generalissimo Santai. He would have invaded Red China in a minute.
I can understand that might make you nervous.
a couple of times when I just come home at night, I tell her I'd invaded Red China just to get a night's sleep. But then, in the morning, when she didn't read anything about it in the papers, she starts all over again.
Invade Red China! Invade Red China! You promised! You promised! You promised!
Well, Generalissimo, of course, I have my own idea of what you ought to do, but what is your plan?
I think what I'll eventually do is I will invade Red China and then wear a hairpiece so she won't be able to find me.
Mrs. M., you say that your husband has little irritating speech habits that get on your nerves. What do you mean by that exactly?
My husband keeps saying, you know what I mean, all the time. You know what I mean? I mean, he keeps saying day and night, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? I mean, he's driving me out of my mind, you know what I mean?
All I know is that she promised to love, honor, and obey. You know what I mean?
Well, Mr. and Mrs. M., your marriage pattern has obviously been psychologically oriented by your deep-seated sublimations. You know what I mean? Now, Mr. B., suppose you tell me why you have come to see a marriage counselor.
Well, Ruth is a marvelous wife and a wonderful mother. She runs our home just beautifully. When Ruthie kisses me, she makes Cleopatra seem like a grumpy old janitor.
Well, that sounds like the most perfect marriage I've ever heard of. But if you have such a perfect marriage, why are you here seeing a marriage counselor?
Well, in spite of Ruth and I coming from the same economic, educational, and religious backgrounds, every time I pass her chair, she reaches out her foot and trips me. She must reach out her foot and trip me 75 to 100 times a day.
Well, when she trips you, does she laugh or smirk when you fall to the floor?
No. When she reaches out her foot and trips me, she just goes on doing what she's been doing. She could be balancing the family checkbook, or washing the children's hair, or spraying herself with perfume to attract me sexually.
But while she's doing all these good, wifely things, she still reaches out her foot and trips you.
Yes. After she trips me, as I crash to the floor, I think to myself, Joe Burton, in spite of being tripped by your wife 75 to 100 times a day, you're a very lucky man.
Does your wife just trip you 75 to 100 times a day when you're alone, or does she also trip you when you have company?
It doesn't seem to make any difference. She trips me formally or informally. Lately, I've noticed she trips more often, and trips harder, actually, around anniversaries. Our wedding anniversary, the children's birthdays. At Christmas time, I'm virtually never off the floor. I have to have a total stranger come in to trim the tree.
Well, it's quite an unusual problem that you're faced with.
Well, it's not so bad now. I'm young, and when she trips me, I can bounce right up again. But I think that as we grow older, once she trips me and I get down there, it's going to be a lot harder to get up. It's rather difficult to raise a family properly when the wife and mother figure is always standing and the husband and father figure is sprawled all over the rug.
I'm sorry, Mr. B. I frankly don't know what to suggest to you.
Well, thanks anyway. I really didn't have much hope you could help me, but I felt pretty certain at least you wouldn't trip me.
I usually don't do marriage counseling this late at night, but my appointment secretary told me that it was an emergency. Now tell me, what seems to be the trouble?
Tomorrow night is our diamond wedding anniversary, and the children are going to give us a party.
Isn't that wonderful? Married 75 years.
We'd get a Mexican divorce, but we're both afraid to fly.
We had 5 children, 3 boys and 2 girls. And they had 15 children, 9 girls and 6 boys. And they had 46 children, 22 boys and 24 girls. And they had 164 children, 79 boys and 85 girls. And every single one of them is a dirty rat.
Well, don't look at me. I didn't want to marry you in the first place. You were a lousy lover, a lousy husband, a lousy father, a lousy grandfather, a lousy great-grandfather, and when little Sally Sue gives birth next week, you'll be a lousy great-great-grandfather.
Why didn't you tell me you felt like this before? Before cute little pug-nosed Midge Travers got senile?
You old fool. I'm Midge Travers.
You're Midge Travers? Well, who am I?
You're Harold Fisher.
I'm Harold Fisher. And you're Midge Travers? Midge, baby!
The thing that is fundamentally wrong with our marriage is that my husband is very self-oriented and very immature.
Could you give me an example of your husband's immaturity?
Well, when my husband can't have his own way, he acts like a little boy having his baseball stick taken away from him.
You mean having his baseball bat taken away from him?
I knew it was baseball bat instead of baseball stick. I mean, holy catfish, why couldn't you let me correct myself? I mean, gee whiz, I'm leaving this marriage counseling session and I'm never coming back in the whole world.
My appointment secretary has told me that you can spare only a half an hour for this marriage counseling session because the husband of the couple has a previous urgent appointment. Your name, sir?
Henry VIII of England, Grand Archduke of Scotland, Defender of the Faith, King of Ireland, and a very unhappy hubby.
And your name, madam?
Catherine, Henry and I have been married for 18 years. I thought everything was tip-top.
Well, what is the trouble, Henry?
Well, I don't say it's been Catherine's fault. Catherine's been a good enough queen. She makes a good appearance. The palace is always neat as a pin. It's just that I want to marry somebody else. And somebody else. And somebody else. And somebody else. And somebody else.
I'll speak to your husband alone in the marriage counseling session next week. But suppose you tell me, Mrs. R., what you consider to be the trouble with your marriage.
Well, John has been drifting away from me and the children. I mean, for one thing, every night he has to spend all that time commuting from the city to the suburbs while the children and I wait for him. It's ruining our marriage.
I know that a family in which the husband commutes daily presents some problems, but why do you think your husband's commuting from the city to the suburbs is any worse than any other family's?
Because the children and I live in the city.
Now, Mr. M., what makes you so dissatisfied with your marriage to Mrs. M. here? I mean, sitting here together, you look very happy.
Well, that's just it. We are very happy when we're alone together, but Jennifer always has to keep having people in. She always has to be having parties.
I relate to people. I like people.
Well, I like people too. But can't we be alone sometimes?
But I relate to people. I like people.
Well, Mr. M., I think your wife displays a commendable mental health in enjoying other people. Perhaps if you would...
Jennifer, darling!
Gloria! How nice you could come!
Well, it was marvelous of you to ask us to your marriage counselor party. Harry and Phyllis and Jack were parking the car. Phyllis is a little tight, Doctor, so I hope you'll understand if she makes some cracks about marriage counselors.
Oh, that's Phyllis. Oh, I'm sorry, Gloria. I forgot to introduce you. Gloria, this is the marriage counselor. Marriage counselor, this is Gloria R.
How do you do? Mrs. M has told me so much about you being a marriage counselor. I bet you know about life. Tell me, Doctor, what is your stand on black brassieres worn in the home?
Mr. and Mrs. M, darlings.
Who's got the can opener? Well, where'll we go for dinner?
I know.
Michelle, since her divorce,
I'm smoking too much. I'm going to have to stop
Oh, well,
smoking.
why don't we all fly to the cake?
A wonderful idea.
Well, Mr. and Mrs. M., I'm going up to bed. I'll see you all in the morning.
Well, Happy New Year, marriage
He's the
counselor!
greatest little marriage counselor a man ever met.
He reminds me of my dad.
He's a jolly good marriage counselor. He's a jolly good marriage counselor. Which nobody can deny. Which nobody can deny. Which nobody can deny. He's a jolly good
Now, Mrs. N., your husband claims that you seem to be more concerned with and show more affection for your French poodle than you do for your husband.
Well, I love them both. I love Muggs, and I adore David.
I see. But you must be able to realize that your husband David might resent your lavishing too much affection on Muggs.
David is my French poodle. Muggs is my husband.
I see. Well, the fact still remains that your husband, Muggs, feels that you neglect him for your French poodle, David.
Oh, that's not true. I show absolutely no favoritism. At the dinner table, David always sits on my left and Muggs always sits on my right, which, as you know, is the place of honor. Well, actually, my husband Muggs seems to forget that at formal dinner parties, he sits at my right and poor precious David has to sit way down at the end of the table below the sole.
Well, Mrs. N., your husband has also complained to me about the sleeping arrangements you have.
Well, what is the matter with that man? I mean, let me ask you, as an objective third party, is it unheard of that a dog sleeps at the foot of the bed?
Well, no, you're right. I know many couples who have their dogs sleep at the foot of their bed.
Well, of course they do. And naturally, I'm not going to let that poor little poodle sleep at the foot of the bed all by himself, so I sleep at the foot of the bed, too.
All right, sir. Suppose you begin by telling me what you think is wrong with your marriage.
Well, Oh, first I'd better tell you that I used to go to a woman marriage counselor and came to you because my wife kept saying I have an Oedipus complex.
Well, the term Oedipus complex is one that we marriage counselors feel is used much too loosely. Now, tell me, Mr.
Oedipus.
Oh, my, you do have a problem.
I don't think I have a problem at all. I've been married to the same woman for 22 years, and she's been a loving, romantic mother to me and just a wonderful wife to our children.
Now, before we begin to discuss your marital problems, and I'm sure they're not as irreparable as the two of you might think at this moment of stress, would you tell me your names, please?
Adam, and I want out. I'm the first man, she's the first woman, and I want the first divorce.
And your name?
Eve. And before you even ask, I'll tell you what the trouble is. There's another woman.
Tell her there's not another woman in the whole world. I ought to know. I've looked everywhere.
Adam's right, Eve. There isn't another woman in the whole world.
You men stick together, don't you? Somewhere, someplace, there's another woman, probably younger and with a lot of money for clothes.
Look at me, Eve. Come on, take a good look. Is there another rib missing? If there was another woman, there'd be another rib gone, right? Well, just count 'em, sweetheart. 1 rib, 2 ribs, 3 ribs.
That's another thing. Whenever I try to sit down and discuss things with him, to try to talk things over like two sensible human beings, all I ever get from him is, what do you know about anything? You're only my rib. You're only my rib. You're only my rib.
Well, you are only my rib, and I'll tell you something else. It wasn't my best rib.
Eve, do you feel that Adam doesn't accept you as a full partner?
Full partner in what? We don't see anybody. We don't go anywhere. Day in and day out, all we ever do is sit around and stare at each other in paradise.
Well, when I come home at night, I'm tired.
Tired from doing what? I mean, that's what I'd like to know. Tired from doing what?
Tired from being the very first man. Like today. All I did was scratch myself, and it was a world first. No wonder I drink too much.
Listen, you think it's easy being the first woman. I don't even have a mother to tell me what I should complain about.
Well, as a marriage counselor, Adam and Eve, I would strongly urge you to try to make a go of your marriage for the sake of the children. What I mean to say is, there will spring from your union alone billions of Chinese.
I knew there was another woman.
Now we're going to conduct a roundtable discussion with a panel of experts participating on the subject, what makes a successful marriage? Our panel of experts includes Dr. Rose Hoffmeyer, one of the country's leading anthropologists. Dr. Hoffmeyer, what is the principal difference between modern American marriages and primitive tribal marriages?
Oh, well, I think that the principal difference is that modern American marriages are unhappy in a modern American way, and native tribal marriages are unhappy in a native tribal way.
Thank you, Dr. Hoffmeyer. We'll come back to you in a moment. Our next marriage panel expert is the distinguished psychiatrist, Dr. Alan Benson. Dr. Benson, modern marriages seem to be becoming much more liberal than before. Let me ask you, what do you think of extramarital affairs?
Well, after interviewing and studying the case histories of thousands of married couples, I have come to the conclusion that having extramarital affairs is the only possible way you can have affairs with other women if you're married.
Our next expert is Judge Edgar Thompson. Judge Thompson, in his many distinguished years on the bench, has heard many divorce cases.
Well, as you say, I've granted many divorces in my years on the bench. But I like to prevent divorces if I possibly can. So before granting the divorce, I usually have the couple come into my chambers and talk things over. And then, after they've talked things over in my chambers, I always grant the divorce.
Well, Judge, if you grant the divorce anyway, why do you have the couples come into your chambers and talk things over with you?
Well, I saw Lionel Barrymore do it in a movie, and it always appealed to me. No matter what anybody else is saying in my chambers, I always repeat what Lionel Barrymore said. Word for word.
Thank you, Judge Thompson. Our next panel member is the beautiful authoress, Miss Liza Throckmorton St. Clair St. John. Miss Throckmorton St. Clair St. John is the author of the best-selling books, The Young Marrieds and The Young Divorced. Beautiful Miss Throckmorton St. Clair St. John's latest bestseller is entitled, Should Teenagers Pet If They Are Married? Miss Throckmorton St. Clair St. John, what do you think about teenage marriages?
Well, before I answer that question, I wish you wouldn't call me beautiful. I am beautiful, of course, but I don't want to get by on just being beautiful. Now, I would much prefer to go down in history as a hard-working and glamorous writer. I am also very sophisticated in a swell human being way. Now, as to what I think of teenage marriages, I think all teenagers should be married, except those who have to work after school. Of course, most teenage marriages won't work out, but when a 13 or 14-year-old gets first-hand experience going through the divorce courts, think what a marvelous edge they'll have in their civic government exams. And besides, if an adolescent has to get up that alimony every month, he won't be able to buy so many sweets, and it'll simply do wonders for his complexion.
Thank you, beautiful Liza Throckmorton St. Clair St. John. There has been much discussion about the antiquated divorce laws. Our next guest is the well-known lawyer and an expert on divorce laws, Mr. Louis Remington.
I think our divorce laws are shocking, old-fashioned and shocking. For instance, in New York State, the only grounds for divorce is adultery.
And you believe that divorces should be granted on grounds other than adultery?
I certainly do believe that divorces should be granted on grounds other than adultery. For instance, I do not think we will be a civilized people until a person can come before the bar of justice and be granted a divorce on the grounds of pure hatred. Now, a person should be able to come into a democratic courtroom and say, under oath, I hate her guts. Or, I hate his guts. Or, in the case of a bigamist, I hate their guts.
Now, let me ask you this question, panel. What do you think is the best way to prevent an unhappy marriage? I see you all have your hands up. Judge Thompson?
Well, after studying marriages of all kinds under all kinds of conditions, I think Lionel Barrymore went along with me on this. I've come to the conclusion that the best way to prevent an unhappy marriage is to not be able to pass the blood test.
As a marriage counselor, I always like my secretary to gather information about the people I'm going to see before I counsel them. But my secretary told me that you would only give your name to me personally. So tell me, sir, what is your name?
I'm the Duke and Duchess of Winslow.
You're the Duke and Duchess of Winslow?
Yes. You see, my wife left me and assumed her maiden name.
Oh, I understand now. So that even though your wife has left you and assumed her maiden name, you all by yourself will still be attending all the international parties as the Duke and Duchess of Winslow.
That's right. The only difference is that in the gossip columns, instead of saying the Duke and Duchess of Winslow were seen, they'll say the Duke and Duchess of Winslow was seen. As the Duke and Duchess of Winslow, I want you to know that I've gotten a lot of good out of this marriage counseling session. So thank you, and goodbye, and goodbye.
Now, why don't the two of you tell me, in general terms, just why you believe your marriage has run into difficulty?
Well, first of all, my name is Mrs. Alexander the Great, and he's my husband.
That's the way we're always introduced. Mrs. Alexander the Great and her husband.
And why not? Who made you great? When I met you, you were Alexander the Nothing. You didn't even know how to walk without cutting your leg with your sword.
Why do you have to keep telling people that?
Why shouldn't I tell people that? Who's the one who told you to conquer Greece in the first place?
You did.
That's
you
right,
did.
that's right. And what did you say when I told you to conquer Greece? You said,
I could never conquer Greece. And even if I did conquer Greece, then I'd have to conquer something else. And then I'd have to conquer something else. And there I am, caught up in the rat race.
but you conquered Greece because I told you to. And right away you were mentioned in Conquerors to Watch.
Boy. What I wouldn't give to be able to conquer someplace where you couldn't find me.
Listen, without me, you couldn't conquer a vacant lot.
Is that completely true? How about the time I fought the Persians, and the Persians had 1 million infantry, 40,000 cavalry, 200 chariots, and 15 elephants, and all I had was 4,000 foot soldiers, 7,000 horse soldiers, and 1 secretary.
Oh, that is another thing. That secretary, every time I try to reach him at the battlefield, they tell me he's away and he should be back in an hour. And then I hear a lot of giggling.
How many times do I have to tell you that wasn't my secretary giggling? It's just that Persians giggle when they die. It's a religious thing.
A religious thing? I suppose it was a religious thing when you gave your secretary a brand new infantry division to guard her tent. And I have to make do with an infantry division that's 10 years old.
Oh, I just can't take her nagging anymore. She can have custody of the children, and I'll give her 10,000 Greeks a year until she remarries. Then I'll give her 10,000 little Greeks for child support.
I don't want Greeks. I want us to be the way we were when I used to bring your elephants hot soup. When we were young and in love, and all we had was a dream of crushing the world together.
Mrs. Alexander the Great and her husband, I think the two of you are still very much in love. Why don't you go back to your field tent and talk it over?
All right. Send me a bill and I'll send you a Greek.
All right, sir. Suppose you tell me what the trouble seems to be.
Well, Melissa here is still in love with her first husband.
I'm not in love with him anymore. How many times do I have to tell you I'm not in love with him anymore?
You are too. You're still in love with him.
I'm not.
Well, sir, the first husband is often the object of irrational jealousy by the second husband.
What second husband? She's still married to her first husband. And she's still in love with him.
Sir, why did you come to a marriage counselor if you're not even married to this woman?
Doesn't a homewrecker have any rights?
Now, I want you to first understand that the problem you face in your marriage is not unusual. The husband of the marriage, often feeling his male dominance is threatened, doesn't want his wife to work. Now, exactly what kind of a job do you have?
I'm Queen of England.
Well, could you just work part-time? Could you just be Queen of England in the mornings?
Well, the way things are going, maybe I could. I know I've had a lot more time for the children since we lost India.
Now, Now, as we close this general marriage counseling session, I will answer questions from the audience. Please raise your hand if you have a question. That gentleman way in the back of the audience.
I have a question to ask about my wife, who's sitting in the front of the audience. I married my wife 23 years ago, and I spent 23 years of my life with her. And my question is, why?
Well, sir, although you seem bitter now, I believe you probably married your wife for the same reason we all marry our wives. Because you wanted to spend the rest of your life with a woman you respected, admired, and loved, and she wouldn't have you.
My name is Mrs. Alma T., formerly Miss Alma R. I married my husband 18 years ago. He gives me everything. He gives me mink coats. He gives me expensive jewelry. He's even given me a 48-foot yacht. But although he gives me all these things, he hasn't given me the one thing a woman wants and needs.
You mean your husband hasn't given you love?
No, that's not what I mean. I want a pony. I mean, what good are expensive minks and jewelry and a yacht if you don't have a pony?
The gentleman in the seventh row.
My problem is that my wife wants me to wear a wedding ring. She gets so upset about my not wearing a wedding ring that she cries. She says the reason I don't wear a wedding ring is because I don't want other women to know I'm married.
Well, sir, the wearing of a wedding ring by the husband is becoming much more common than it used to be, and I suggest that if it'll make your wife happy, that you begin wearing a wedding ring.
Well, if I wear a wedding ring, shouldn't she have to wear a wedding ring, too?
I'll take the next question from that lady in the lovely dress and very chic hat.
Thank you. My question is, just how many times a week do I legally have to let their father see my children?
Well, Madam, the number of times a week a father can see the children is usually determined in the separation or divorce agreement.
Oh, my husband and I aren't separated or divorced. We're still married and live in the same house. It's just that I don't like him to see my children.
Well, Madam, does your husband ask to see his children?
Oh, yes. He says every morning, "Where are the children?" I keep telling him they're away at a year-round summer camp.
What are your children's names?
Well, I've told my husband their names are Harold and Ruth. But their real names are Kenneth and Naomi.
Well, Madam, to answer your question about how many times their father ought to see your children, I would say that since your husband is a good husband in every way, except he keeps pestering you to see your children, I would allow him to see the children for an hour and a half on Father's Day. Of course, if his birthday falls on the same day as Father's Day, he ought to be allowed not only to see the children, but to touch them. After which you can wash the children with a mild astringent or a good family detergent. Now, a question from that man with his hand raised in the 10th row.
I didn't have a question about my marriage. I just had my hand raised to strike my wife.
That lady in the last row wearing what appears to be a very, very low-cut dress.
My name is Eve. I knew there was another woman.
Now let's hear it for the marriage counselor. The poor guy never had a chance.
He's a jolly good marriage counselor, but he's too late for you.